Wednesday nights! No?
No, you've never been to New York.
Oh, that's true. I haven't been to New York.
Give me that.
Okay.
Quit looking at garbage.
Welcome back to Springer Homestead. It is Wednesday, and tonight's chat, Nikki's going to go over some rare breed information and some questions she's had to rabbits, and I'm going to make everybody feel like a Debbie Downer and talk about everything else that's being shorted. So what's been going on lately, Nikki?
Well, let's see. Since last week, we unexpectedly bought a puppy.
We did. We got a new puppy.
And when I say unexpected, it was unexpected. So we have been talking for the last couple weeks about the fact that our LGDs are all getting older. So we have 5 LGDs on the farm right now, and 3 of those are over the age of 7. Which, if you know anything about bigger dogs, most of the LGD breeds, say that fast,
I know,
are rated for about 10 to 12 years of lifespan, which isn't very long. So, and it takes 2 years to train these dogs up, and our better dog, our best female dog, is 8, going on 9.
Yep.
So we decided it was time to get her an apprentice that she can start training up for us. And if you've been around for very long, you know that I am totally over Anatolians, having had some tough times with them. And that's what I see a lot here is Anatolians and Great Pyrenees. And we love our Great Pyrenees, but he is kind of a butt. So I've really been wanting a Marima. I hadn't tried a Marima yet. Heard good things about him. And back in June, I actually saw an ad for Akbosh Marima, and our 2 of our dogs are part Akbosh. So I was kind of interested. I had sent them an email. They came back with a price that was way higher than I wanted to pay for a crossbreed. So I decided, I'm not going to do that. And last Thursday morning, lo and behold, they emailed me and said, hey, would you pay X? We still haven't sold these puppies that are now like 3.5, almost 4 months old. So, we went down and looked at them. I have some suspicions that they are not necessarily what they say they are. She's got huge feet. I can see some Akbosh. I can see some Marima in there. The things I'm not real sure is she's got ears that are standing up way more than they should. And the young man that met with us kept saying, well, they're Akbosh Shepherd. And I said, Akbosh is an Akbosh, not a Shepherd. So is it Akbosh crossed with something? And he clearly had no idea what he was talking about. I was a little nervous about them. They're house dogs, which always makes me a little nervous. But we brought her home. She's set up in the barn next to 2 of the dogs. She seems to be doing pretty good so far. Terrified of the house dog. That, she's the same size as the cats and 7 pounds. And the pup isn't real confident about what this dog is. But she will spend probably another month in the barn, just hanging out in her own pen next to the other dogs, and then she will go over with Shy and begin her training. So we have Aislinn Fox on and Matthew. Hello to both of you. So that's probably the biggest news that's happened in the last week is, of course, bringing home a puppy. And this morning we were a whole whopping 31 degrees, so I was terrified that the garden was done for. But it seems to be hanging on.
Yeah.
Actually, surprisingly little damage. The potatoes got a little bit. Tomatoes turned out okay. Peppers did all right. I didn't really see anything that, fried like I would imagine. So, all good there. What else have we been doing? Trying to survive the smoke. So I'm trying not to complain about it a whole lot. We got a whole bunch from, was it antelope that we were getting it from?
Yeah, antelope and Dixie mixed.
Some really gnarly fires in Northern California right now. And I mean, it was bad. We couldn't see, it was every bit as bad as when the bootleg fire was going. So we couldn't see an eighth of a mile down to our gate. It was so thick.
Yeah.
Both of us were having huge breathing problems. And yeah, it was really, really gnarly. Just kind of I don't know, kind of the way it is right now, I guess.
Well, I mean, the air quality index, it's a range from 0 to whatever. Well, at 138, it's unhealthy for anybody.
Yeah.
And that morning that was real bad. It was at 196 where we were. So that should tell you how bad it really was.
One evening it was 216.
Yeah,
I don't know what the window is.
Yeah, but it's pretty rough. 138 is where they say everybody should be affected by this, and we were definitely affected by it. It was rough. We had to overnight. We normally leave the windows open to cool the house down, and at like 3 o'clock we had to get up and just because we were just coughing and choking. There was so much smoke. We just had to close the windows, turn on fans, and just get through to the next morning.
Yeah, and the animals are doing pretty well. The nice thing is, even though we've had all this smoke, it's been really hot. So I've been running the misters, which knocks the particulate out for the rabbits. The goats seem pretty unaffected.
Yeah.
The chickens don't seem to care. I noticed my house dogs aren't doing as well out in it, so we're just keeping the girls in as much as possible. So that's kind of been the big stuff. Oh, and Friday, Oregon went back to face masks in public again. So yeah, that's the big thing right now is face masks.
Yeah.
Which means we are just staying at home. I'm over it.
I went let's see, today's Wednesday.
Yesterday.
So I went to town yesterday, which is Tuesday, and every store I went to, I just put the mask on, regardless. It's it's just like let's just take the hassle out of it. You don't know. There's people like overacting across the country where parents are punching teachers, and you never know. Somebody could just be having that kind of a day, and you would unfortunately have to be the person that's not wearing a mask and they flip out. So I was like, I'll just take that out of there. So I wore my mask at every store I went to, and it seemed like I was in the very few minority wearing a mask. Most people, probably 85 to 90% of people, were not wearing masks, and that include employees at the store.
That's what we found last Friday when we went to. I believe it or not, am a bit claustrophobic, so I have a really hard time with the masks. And naturally, I had just finally gotten used to them, and then we didn't have to wear them, and now we have to wear them again, and
got to go back to it.
Yeah. Anyway,
retrain your body.
So I took my cues from everybody else on Friday when we went, and I didn't wear them. So
yeah, we didn't wear them last Friday, but I figured give everybody the weekend to vent and get crazy. And yesterday, I decided I'll just wear the mask, and it really was a non-event. The only obscenities thrown at anybody was, I think, a homeless person walking down the street having a mental breakdown.
I will give this to the mask, right? I'm not a masker. I've read all the documentation, and basically, I don't believe they work. It's just my opinion based on what I've read. But I tend to wear my thoughts on my face. So the masks are really handy for kind of screening off the looks I give people in Walmart. So there's something to be said for it.
That's right.
You know. Past that, what have we been up to? I've ordered some feed. Y'all, if you are not staying up on your feed, availability is back at the moment. At least my feed store guys are telling me that things are coming in as they should. Prices, however, are continuing to climb. And here locally, we're having problems with at least one feed coming in consistently, to the point where a lot of people are giving up and moving on to something else. And I was reading that the smaller feed companies by this fall will probably start having production issues because, and remember, this is mostly in rabbit feed, because rabbit feed is it's grass and alfalfa based. And as we know, at least in the western United States, there are hay shortages. So keep up on it. Keep yourself a good supply. Remember, rabbit feed is good to about about 90 days before it starts to have nutrient drop off. So do yourself a favor, keep yourself some on hand, because we don't know when you might go and there might be nothing. We had that back in the spring because of production issues with the feed company that I use. But we could be seeing that again this fall for a whole nother different reason entirely.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got? Is that about it?
I think for homesteading stuff.
We don't want to talk about your cars.
Okay.
You want to talk about your cars?
I don't really need to talk about my cars.
Okay.
I mentioned last week that I had gotten the Porsche I bought from an auction that was supposedly burned, that wasn't burned, that I finally got it running last week, and I just put it on the tires this afternoon. I've got it, both of my Porsches up for sale, so that'll be gone. Hopefully I'm going to sell them both this fall.
One only hopes.
I know, and then I can get back on the last car I would have. So I still have 3 of them. If I can sell these other 2, I'm going to finish the 3rd one, sell it, buy something new next spring. Work has been very busy. So I've got my part-time corporate job in the morning, and it's still rock and rolling, doing pretty well. I don't know where that's going to lead, but it's no shortage of work on that end. And then I had been writing, So 3 weeks ago, I had 2 writing clients I was doing. I was doing 2 to 3 articles a month each for them. I picked up a 3rd client that is on YouTube. They wanted car content made, so I'm making content for them on a weekly basis, something between 5 to 10 minutes and some other stuff with it. 2 days ago, no, yesterday, I agreed to write for a tech school that I had in the previously, so that makes client 4. And then this morning, I got contacted again. Nikki doesn't know this one. I got contacted again from another client that I had done some web work for. They want to go back into some more content, so that makes client 5 that I have at night now. So
all I care is that he's available for the important stuff. And when I say important stuff, we have like a dozen goats to be banding this week. So I'm probably gonna try. Let's shoot for trying to make a video on it. I know people asked me last year. We were already done.
Yeah.
But we'll kind of go through our protocol for it, because we have oodles of males. I think it's probably 3-to-1 ratio, males to females, is what we got this year for
At least.
for goats. And nobody is buying right now. It's kind of a stressful deal. So these guys might be heading to freezer camp at some point, which means I don't want them intact. So we will be.
I think a lot of people blew every bit of stimulus money. They held it.
And then blew it all.
And then blew it all when everything opened back up, because now we're starting to see people like fire sale anything and everything to try and make money.
Yeah.
So sure. I don't know.
All right. So Ruby Fox, hello. And D Bales, hello from Southern Nevada.
Excellent.
Are you guys on fire down there in Southern Nevada? I mean, I swear everybody else is.
Sure. I didn't think they were. I thought Northern Nevada was.
Oh, well, I don't know. Everything's on fire. It's either on fire or flooding.
I know.
There doesn't seem to be middle ground there.
I know.
Okay, so good week for rabbit questions. I've had all kinds of stuff. So not everybody knows I run a whole bunch of different Facebook pages. At least in my world, it's 3. It's 3. But that's a whole lot for me on top of everything else. But I've had some emails. I do run the Harlequin 101 Facebook page. That is all me. We also have our Sprague Rabbits and Poultry page. And we have the Sprague Homestead page. And we've also gotten some questions on Instagram. So I'll kind of go over some stuff, because it seems like I don't know if everybody's getting back into rabbits again, because it sure seems like a lot of these are new folks, or people that are planning to go into them in the spring. That's another big thing. So I'll answer a couple of these, and then we'll kind of go into the heritage breed thing, because that's a big can of worms and a really interesting conversation. So one of the questions that I got is, was it okay to breed first cousins? So somebody bought some rabbits, and apparently it works out that they're cousins on mom or dad or whatever side. Yes, absolutely. I would recommend that you go back in and look for our line breeding term video. I do talk about that a lot in a bunch of our videos. that rabbits can be line bred up to 10 generations. So if they're first cousins, man, I wouldn't worry about it. You've got plenty of genetic diversity there. So you should be all good. Another thing that I had, I was trying to think now. What was the other one that? Oh, somebody was asking me about Harlequins, which is always fun. They were saying that they are seeing a lot of Harlequin New Zealands showing up on show tables, and is that okay? So this gets into a whole can of worms, and I've talked about this quite a bit on live streams and other things, that I'm not a crossbreeding fan. ARBA, for show purposes, judges by phenotype, which is how they look, versus genotype. So can you take a crossbreed and put it on a show table?
Yes.
Yep, as long as it matches the standard. So what you typically have happen, though, if you've got a judge that's all paying attention and not just blinded by the pattern, if you're really paying attention, there are usually marked differences, both in size, head shape, ear length, that sort of thing. I mean, New Zealand's carry their ears at a different angle. But technically, can they do it? Yeah. Is it frowned upon? I would say by most breeders it is frowned upon. You'll run into this in every single breed. You have, in fact, I've heard some very prominent judges say, if you've got type problems, throw New Zealand at it, which I don't agree with, but there you go. Silver Fox is one that we're starting to see some changes in, right down to the fact that they're working on colors that aren't normal colors. Brokens, whites, torts, all kinds of stuff. The Americans are having this problem big time. I have one in the barn right now that is just a dash, and yeah, if you count like a third of the pedigree being a dash of New Zealand, I guess. But yeah, can you? Absolutely. If you're showing them, you absolutely can show a crossbreed as long as it matches the standard. I always tell people this story because I think it's very, very demonstrative of that. So one year we were showing in Eugene, and a friend of mine, Zach, I'm going to out him, Zach Rolfe, was showing a really nice black New Zealand, and everybody kept going, "Oh my God, Zach, I didn't know you did black New Zealands. This is great." He was absolutely and thoroughly whipping everybody on the show tables all weekend. It was a beautiful rabbit. Problem was, it was not a New Zealand. It was and I'm going to get this wrong. I think it was a satin cross with a Californian. And it was a beautiful rabbit, but it was not a black New Zealand, and it won all weekend, took best of breed all weekend, and but it matched the standard, and it matched the standard beautifully, and that's what happens, right? He did not keep it. He sold it at the end of the weekend to another New Zealand breeder who kept it for her own breeding program. What came of that, man? I don't know. Mary Poppins. At least I'm assuming that's how you say that. Would you guys ever breed dogs or cats?
On purpose?
The cats. So yeah, the cats are a breeding project of their own. They just kind of do their own thing. Farm cats, at least when you live as rural as we do, farm cats have a pretty short lifespan. It's kind of the way it works. So we don't spay our females generally. We did a couple years ago when we hit 27 cats. But we're down to what, 8, 9? Something like that?
I think I'm currently at 8.
Yeah, so
8, well, maybe 9, something like that. It's not that many in comparison, but they are split. So I have what I call as the barn crew. I have 4 females and a male. All the females are spayed, and the male is not. He's not spayed, but not neutered. They live out at the barns, and they basically keep mice out of all my barns, feed anything out there. They can get into the hay. They just nestle in there all winter. And then I have, depending on the night, I have 4 that can come up to the house here, and I feed them at the back of the house, and they're all related. But they are at least 3 females. 1 is the mom, 2 are the kids, and then there's another one that is only a few months old, and I haven't got close enough to see if it's a boy or a girl.
So yeah, we don't like go out of our way to breed our cats. In fact, it was never the plan. We had two female cats that we brought home because our closest neighbor was close to a mile away, and the other neighbor, or the only neighbor that was close by, had told us over and over again they had no cats, they hated cats, blah blah blah. Sure enough, both of our female cats come up pregnant, and oh, by the way, right after we got ours, he brought home a tomcat.
Yeah, and then
That's how
didn't tell us, and then yeah, so we didn't spay the original two because we were the only ones down here with cats. You know,
Yeah,
there
they
was
don't.
only two families that lived here, and only one family had cats, and then the other one turned out, sure enough, they brought home a tomcat, who at a mile away, guess what? He still showed up, and
He was, in fact, that when they moved, they left him.
Yeah.
So he was here for a while. I suspect something got him,
yeah, I don't know.
but don't know for sure. As far as the dogs are concerned, we have some intact female LGDs. We have a male intact LGD, and we have an intact female collie. And we have been kicking around finding collie a boyfriend. We actually bought one of the LGD females to breed to our male, and then haven't been real happy with her work ethic. Will we breed? I don't know. Breeding dogs is kind of a wild
Yeah,
thing, right? Because I believe that we're overpopulated with junk dogs. I think it's really cute to say adopt don't shop, but really that's creating more problems. You're basically reinforcing the backyard junk breeders, and really it's becoming almost a penalty for the good breeders that take the time to test. And that's kind of where we're at. If we choose to breed the collie, she is what did I say the other day? 20 months now.
yeah, she's 6 months away, or 4 6
4
months
months.
to be at least in the window.
Yeah, they recommend testing at 2 years. So at 2 years, I will probably go down and have her fully tested, eyes, hips, all that good stuff, to see if she's even a candidate for breeding. Because I'm not going to breed a bad dog. I'm just not going to breed a bad dog. The LGDs we won't take in to be tested. If I decide to breed them, I am breeding based on vitality. Remember, I'm not like my younger intact bitch right now is 4, so this is like her window to breed. She's between 3 and 4. We're only going to try and get a litter or 2 out of her, but I'm looking for vitality and work ethic. I mean,
yeah.
It's a whole different animal, and the reason I put it off is I feel like there's a lot of people breeding LGDs that are garbage.
Well, but even talking about the one we just got last week, that you know, the owner swears up and down he knows exactly what it is, and then come to find out, he really can't tell you anything about the breeds. You go to the house and they're all in the living room.
Yeah.
So it's even if the pedigree is there, if the work ethic is terrible, like you can have the best championship bloodlines, and if it won't get off the couch, then it's really not very good. And we've had the flip of that, where you've had dogs like our big male that's 150 pounds. We got him from a lady that was feeding him Old Roy and turkey wieners, and
Yeah.
he's if he was fed right from the beginning, I can only imagine how big and massive he would be. He's 150 pounds on a horrible first 6 months diet,
and it screwed up his teeth.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, will we breed dogs in the future? I know this is a long-winded answer.
Yeah.
Will we breed dogs? I
Maybe.
don't know. But you better believe I'm going to be as picky on the dogs as I am on the rabbits, as I am on the chickens, as the rest of it. So, and I'm not a big believer in selling pups at 6 and 8 weeks either.
Yeah.
This one was almost 4 months. We have bought a couple of 9-week-old puppies on a couple of occasions. Unless you know what you're doing, I don't really advise that.
Yeah. Because sadly, most of the breeders out there, and we continually see this over and over and over, that people can study what the buzzwords are. They can put up LGD. The person we bought the one from last week kept putting up, and he said, "Gosh, I keep getting my ads flagged on Craigslist." Well, he was putting LGD puppies which really were living room guard dogs or lazy boy guard dogs.
Yeah.
In the pet section, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were on the pet section.
Yeah,
of
so he kept getting
Craigslist.
flagged because he couldn't figure out how to put it in the right farming section where it
Yeah.
should have been for a farm type dog.
Well, and that's because he knew they were LGDs, but they're house dogs. So
Right.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Would I ever breed them? Yeah, I might. I've been kicking around, like I said. The big thing, I've been thinking about doing the collie, and the reason I've been thinking about doing the collie is it's nice and all that they've turned these into show dogs, but they were working animals, and we have really tried to foster that in her. She's got good instinct, not the best, stock dog trainer. I'll admit that. Never had one that showed any interest before. We work on it all the time, and that's the kind of thing I want. I'd like to find another male that has some ethics, some interest, and to try and get a working line of collies, because unfortunately that's not what they do anymore, and I think that's sad. Not everything needs to be a pet, but that'll get me going on a whole nother thing. Aislinn Fox did ask a question: when getting rabbits for the first time, what's a good time of year to get new rabbits? Is there any time of year you should avoid getting rabbits? Yep, don't buy them in the summer. The stress on top of heat, it's a recipe for disaster. If you're going to get them, fall is fine, winter's fine, spring is fine. The big thing is try and take as much stress off them as you can. So, particularly, I like fall or spring best, just because you're dealing with less extreme weather. But yeah, trying to always avoid the summer. If it's horribly cold where you live, I know somebody had said they were in Wisconsin. I think that was Ruby Fox.
Yeah.
If you're in Wisconsin, you probably don't want to bring them home in the winter either. Just a lot of work to try and adapt everybody. The other thing is you kind of need to look at it. If you're buying local, that's fine. If you're bringing them from somewhere else, the best thing to do is try and find a time of year where your weather sinks a little bit better, right? Like there are times where we're 75 and so is Mississippi. And if I was going to bring rabbits in from Mississippi, I would try and bring them in such a time where the weather sinks up a little bit better. You're just going to have a little less to worry about during transition. Ruby Fox, who was in Wisconsin, says, I'm thinking about getting into breeding rabbits, but right now just my daughter. My daughter just shows them for 4-H at the fair and stuff. So it becomes quite a thing when you start doing rabbits, because it's a whole different world doing purebred rabbits for ARBA and that kind of thing. It's a whole different world than 4-H.
Yeah.
Whole different world. Okay, so let's kind of get into talking about the whole heritage breed thing. So I think what we have going on in the country right now is you keep seeing these things like Mother Earth News and Hobby Farms and everybody running these articles talking about heritage breeds. Get the heritage breeds, get the rare breeds. And I don't think anybody writing these articles understands enough about the rare breed and the heritage breed to know what they're talking about. So, in particular, somebody sent me an email this last week asking about, they want to get into rabbits and they're really drawn to American chinchillas, and they want to get some American chinchillas and they're not going to eat them. They're just going to, in fact, I think it's Aislinn that was asking about the chinchilla. And here's the thing. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't know how to necessarily pick a really good rabbit. And when you get into rare breeds, we have a lot of conformation problems in the rare breeds, right? This is what happens when they kind of start dying out. You end up with little pieces of stock. People breed them and they'll sell everything because they're rare breed. And this is my bigger concern with what's going on with the rare breeds right now. People sell everything because they're rare, when about 80% of those rabbits should go to the freezer. They just should. And I know people cringe and they go, no, they're rare. You can't eat them. Okay, well, The Livestock Conservancy started something really interesting this last year, and it's called Eat 'em to Save 'em. And if you follow the Livestock Conservancy and read through what they're talking about there, it will make a lot more sense to you. But the basic gist of it is this: we are not saving breeds if we are selling junk, right? We are saving breeds if we are putting the best candidates of the breed out. So that means that, especially in the rare breeds, we should be culling every bit as hard, if not harder, than the other breeds. Because what we don't want is we don't want to perpetuate garbage. And Aislinn was asking in your email, I'm trying to remember because I get a lot of stuff. You were saying that you didn't really want to eat them. You were just going to give them away. I will tell you right now that is a horrible, horrible, horrible plan. Please don't do that. One, it destroys how much hard work the heritage breeders that are breeding these rabbits are putting into them. We people who breed heritage breeds, we charge for our rabbits, and we charge a pretty penny for our rabbits because so much work and dedication goes into saving these animals. I cannot even tell you how many hours I have driven to bring Americans in, because we had basically no breeders on the West Coast or Pacific Northwest. There's some in California. I've driven hours to go get rabbits multiple times, trying to preserve these things and bring them to my little pocket of the country, right? If I have to compete with somebody that's giving these rabbits away, and I'll tell you this, you don't have enough experience, and this is not a knock, you don't have enough experience raising rabbits, because you've already told me that you haven't raised them before, to be putting good rabbits out, right? So now what's happening is what'll happen is people will get a buck or doe, and they'll be like, oh, I want one to breed with this. So they'll go find another breeder, they'll buy a rabbit, and now we've got junk genetics breeding into good rabbits, and we're getting more junk out there. And it's very, very, very frustrating. I get people all the time who come to me that have bought Americans, and the color's wrong, the type is wrong, the size is wrong. And I have to try and educate these people who have paid a lot of money for rabbits, that thought they were doing a good thing, that thought they were preserving a heritage breed, and they're, basically I have to tell them, you're not saving anything. So, do I think American Chinchilla is a good breed for you to start with? No. For what you're doing, absolutely not. If you're going to take this seriously, if you're really going to take it seriously and you want to be an American Chinchilla breeder, and you have somebody that will butcher them, or you will butcher them yourself, and you will understand, find yourself a good mentor and learn what you're doing, and cull the 80 to 90% that a good breeder culls, then absolutely. They're sweet rabbits. They're good rabbits. They can be a nice pelt rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
If you are just looking for a rabbit to tinker with, to learn how to raise rabbits, which is what you said you were looking for, please don't.
Get something that is fairly common, low price.
Pick up a meat mutt.
Yeah, pick up something off of Craigslist. I mean, if you want to learn how to breed and to do the other pieces. And one of the cool things that you can learn is if you get a standard of perfection, which is only what, $30-$40 now or something.
24
bucks,
I think now.
If you get a standard perfection and you know what it should look like, if you go buy something, off of Craigslist that, or somewhere else that somebody says it's supposed to be this, you can look at the rabbit, judge your standard, and decide, is this really thing supposed to be purebred, or does it have these qualities or not have these qualities? And the entry cost is pretty low.
Yeah, you can learn an awful lot from meat mutts.
Right.
And oftentimes what you learn is all the stuff you don't want to do going forward. But when somebody's telling me they're just looking for the experience and the manure, look, anything will make manure.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that is one thing. A crappy rabbit will do just as much as a great rabbit.
Yep.
They will still put out the same end product. So no, I don't advise starting with a rare breed if you're new to the game and you're just looking for basically a pet that you're
Yeah.
going to give away. I don't recommend it. It really is harmful, and I don't think people understand that necessarily. The other thing I'll say about heritage breeds is we're getting, like, I get this a lot where people are like, oh, I want Americans. Oh, I want the unpedigreed ones. I just want to breed them for me. Then why do you want Americans?
Yeah.
I understand that they are great rabbits. We've talked about this. We've done them in many videos, and I think they're wonderful, just like people really want the fox. But if you are taking in heritage breeds and doing unpedigreed rabbits, what is the point?
Right.
I'm not sure I understand the point of the whole thing. Most breeders will put pedigrees on rabbits that meet the standard. So if you're breeding them and they're not meeting the standard, then unless you're eating every single one, I'm not sure I understand the deal. There are a lot of people that are doing small groups of them. Like, I know Elijah and a couple other people have been talking to me about rabbits for months now. And Deb out on the East Coast is doing silver fox. They're mostly eating theirs. It's not a big deal. But even those small groups are being pedigreed. They're good quality. They're going to learn. One guy in California I talked to this last week that's looking for an American doe. He was just going to do it for me. He went out and got himself a standard of perfection because he said, look, I need to know what I'm talking about. I said I wanted Americans. They better look like Americans, right? Yeah. These small groups, and this is the only shining light that I see when it comes to all these media outlets talking about heritage breeds. The bright shining light in all of this is that when things get bad, and things are a little ugly right now, but when things get bad, really bad, it's the small breeders that typically save a breed. So while I absolutely think it's awesome that people want to do American chinchillas and Americans and silver foxes, if you're really going to do them and you're trying to preserve the breed, get the pedigrees, get the standard of perfection, learn what you're doing, and actually hold on to good animals. Not every animal needs to be a breeder, and do it the right way. Because if something really does happen, in this day of having RHD and everything else going on, if something catastrophic happens to the hobby, a lot of the hobby breeders will get out. It's the meat breeders that save a breed. And a good example of that is the Trianta. These guys are little, right? They're 5 pounds, and we've got some of them. They were almost entirely obliterated because they were developed out of Germany and Holland. They were almost completely obliterated during World War II and World War I. Do you know what saved them?
I'm going to guess a small breeder.
Small breeders that were using them for meat. That's what saved them. They were very small rabbits. They could keep a whole lot of them in very small amount of space. They weren't attracting attention. Most of the bigger breeders of them had gotten out of them, right? There were bigger concerns. They needed that money and those vegetables for themselves. But it was the small breeders that were keeping them for meat source that kept the breed going. But they kept breeding them to the standard of the rabbit, and this is why we still have the Trianta today. So I think it's cool. And like I said, if you want to do American chinchillas and you want to do them right, yeah, go ahead. But find yourself a good mentor that can teach you what you're really looking for, and take it seriously. Giving rabbits away is not taking it seriously and actually really harmful for the breed.
I always look at it as don't go buy a Porsche, spend Porsche money if you open the glove box and can't read the owner's manual and it actually said it's a Pinto. That's right. That's right. Slam that down there.
Him and his car stuff.
That's right. But if you want to play in the NFL and you don't know the rules of football, that doesn't work either.
There you go.
You got to work your way up to the elite level. So don't spend your way to the highest level thinking if you want to be there, earn your way there. That's all I'll say. Don't spend your way and earn it in.
Yeah. No, I'll agree with that. But you got to do it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest worry I have in what I see in the heritage breeds right now. Is just this, we got to save them, so we'll sell every single one we get, and it's really doing a lot of harm. It just, from a breeder who has to catch it on the back end of people who have gotten into bad Americans. Please don't do that.
But we've seen that with every breed, really. We see it from the back end of people that buy into rabbits that be like, hey, I found this screaming deal on blank. What are these things? They're like, that's a cat. Oh, I knew that didn't look right to me, but I still spent the money because the guy insisted it was still, it was American Fuzzy Buzzy and it was a rare breed and it's a cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we do see some stuff.
Yes, unfortunately.
We do see some stuff.
Yeah.
Haley Bowman said real talk. And I get passionate about my stuff, right? I work hard. I put a lot of time and energy and money into stuff. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. Aislinn, I hope you don't feel called out. It was just, in particular, you were the one that sent the email most recently that's really, I hadn't answered yet because it's been jogging around in my brain all week. But yeah, they're a cool breed, but I don't, for what you're talking about doing, I don't recommend them. Just pick yourself up and meat mud if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You never know. You might pick up some rabbits, tinker with them, and be like, man, I really like doing this, and I want the chinchillas. And then by all means, if you're going to go for it and do it the right way, do the chinchillas. We'd love to see more chin breeders.
Mm-hmm.
All the chins are having trouble, but you got to do it right. You can't just be populating, for lack of a better word, trash rabbits. We see this in everything. I mean, unfortunately, we had a new girl in one of our boards this week that posted a thing about her new silver fox. And man, I got to tell you, they are the ugliest silver fox I've ever seen in my life. But she got them from a breeder, paid a lot of money for them, and come to find out, this is a breeder that literally sells every single rabbit she produces because silver fox are hot right now.
Well, we saw that at 4-H this year.
Oh God!
That even just in our local, and we don't live in a big areas, and it all came out of one person. But this one breeder was literally selling anything and everything to make $1. And
they were horrible.
And unfortunately, you get a lot of new kids that come in that, not going to say they're going to bring a lot of money, but they want to get started, and she cuts them a deal because they're kids, and then you get them there, and Nikki helped somebody local that wasn't getting a lot of mentorship through her group, just wasn't rabbit focused. And you go over there and you find out a week from fair that you didn't really buy anything good. You were told a lot of bad information. And thankfully, through a couple weeks of work, they really got the program turned around enough to do pretty darn well at 4-H and at the fair. But we heard it over and over and over from one particular breeder this year that was just like, hey, you need a rabbit? I've got an American Fuzzy Buzzy. It's black, blue, and purple. I like that today.
Apparently
that's my
Fuzzy
deal.
Buzzy is Caden's.
Yeah, that's my thing today. And it turns out it was a cat, so.
It's not a cat.
But anyway.
Yeah, I did see a Holland Lop that could physically not, had such poor muscle tone and structure, physically could not pose as a Holland Lop. And it was just the saddest thing in the world to me, because I looked at this, one, the kid paid a lot of money for it, but I thought, dear merciful heavens, what do the parents look like? I mean, to be that screwed up physically.
Yeah.
The two Holland Lop parents must just be horrendous. Just horrendous. Because there's no way you took two nice rabbits and got that out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it does happen, right? Recessives are an ugly thing. But
it was like everything wrong that didn't meet standard, bred with everything wrong that didn't meet standard. And
the only thing that was nice is this Holland had a really nice little head on her. Her crown was a little tight, but she had a really nice head overall. And she had nice fur, she had nice color. That is where it stopped. I mean, I won't get into it. It was just a really sad situation.
Yeah.
So Ruby asked, what breeds of rabbits do you raise and breed? So my primary breeds are the Harlequin. I'm still currently the president of the American Harlequin Rabbit Club. for a couple more months. And then I'm running to go to secretary. But I raise Harlequins. I raise Americans. I raise Triantas. So I kind of have a small, medium, large thing going there. I am tinkering with some unpedigreed satins, and that's kind of an interesting homestead rabbit project. And then I have an English lop doe. I had an English lop buck, bought him a girlfriend, and sure enough, he hurt himself and had to be culled. So I have a doe that I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. I may breed her to an American, just put some babies out of her so that I can justify how much I spent on her and send them off to the meat market. But
she's a good rabbit, though. Really good personality. Very good personality.
English lops are one of those breeds that when I got into rabbits like 6 years ago, they were really popular. We'd see them at every show. Those and French lops. And like all things, right, there are highs and lows. So now you go to shows, you almost never see a lop anywhere. So I thought, I'll get some of these. I might tinker with them. What I have found is they just aren't the breed for me. Just for whatever reason. I don't really like the upkeep. Good personality, heavy bone. So, I try and shy away from anything real heavy bone because of everything's got to be, have a meat value, right? Because I sell my culls to a cull buyer, but we also eat a lot of our own culls, feed the dogs the culls. And I do cull really, really, really hard. So, like 80-90% across the board on most of my breeds. Yep. The Harlequins I actually cull, I think we're down to 95. Yeah. The first couple of years we culled 99% of our Harlequins trying to get better rabbits. And I think we're there. We've gotten some nice rabbits, but we do cull pretty hard. Jonathan Weaver, best homestead channel right here.
I don't believe it.
You must be watching something else in another window. Exactly. That's not fair.
We're not we don't follow the trends. We don't we run to the beat of our own drum around here.
Oh, I don't run. Unless somebody's chasing me with a knife, I don't run.
we jog and
walk circles.
We walk circles to the beat of our own music.
I will say this week I walked outside a couple of times in the evening after I had done my chores in yoga pants. And I almost felt like I was channeling some of these other channels. And right. I thought, I don't know how in the world you do anything in yoga pants.
I had thought about wearing yoga pants in some videos just to see what would happen.
We've talked about this. Nobody wants to see you
Nobody wants to see me in yoga pants, though.
Nobody.
I don't want to see myself in yoga pants. No, we just do our own thing. I mean, really, when we started this, we were at this property, we were already here 3 years. We had already done a lot of the infrastructure. And then we were like, yeah, we'll give it a shot to try and fix a bunch of information and just more or less document what we do. We're not going out of our way to do product endorsement deals and, all the other stuff that a lot of channels really look for, that we're just going to do our own thing. I mean, if Google implodes and you lose all your data and all of a sudden you have nothing from YouTube, we'll just call it Tuesday and move on.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that was the height of most of the rabbit questions that I had this week. I've had a few other little oddball stuff, but nothing big. I did get somebody who sent me a message and asked me exactly what the heck I was doing with, because I've mentioned this before. I've got these little homestead projects.
Oh, yes.
So somebody asked me what I was doing with the goats, and I'll also explain what I'm doing with the rabbits when I say I'm working on a homestead project with these satins. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create this master rabbit, and it'll probably never happen because the genetics in this is so freaking tough. What I want is a rabbit that will produce as many offspring as my Americans, right? So I want litters of 10 to 14. With their personality, because they tend to be pretty outgoing, but very fierce mothers, very good mothers. My bucks are phenomenal. They don't really spray. I don't have a lot of problems with that. I want satin sheen on top of it, right? So I brought these satins in, and I'm tinkering with throwing some satin blood in there. The satins have that really nice wide rear end that you get out of New Zealand's, and we get quite a bit of that in our Americans. So I feel like they're a good step. The problem with the satins is they don't grow very fast, right? The satins don't grow that much faster than the Harlequins. So to get a 5 pound rabbit is taking us 12, sometimes 12 to 14 weeks, which is really pathetic for a big rabbit. And I know some satin breeders that are doing better than that. But my Americans a lot of times will hit that 5 pound mark at 8 to 9 weeks, even with a bigger litter. So I'm trying to combine some of that. On top of that, I'd really like to put a Harlequin pattern on it. And not like you see in Harlequin Rex, which is just looks like a paint can exploded. I specifically, I don't care about any of the front end markings. It makes no difference. Because what I'm looking at is to create a pelt animal, right? So I want to create a homestead rabbit that's maximum meat production with a beautiful pelt on it. So what I'm really focusing on is either bars or banding, and really good color. And I'm probably going to focus on the magpie group and not worry about doing them in Japanese, just because. But I think it's really, it's one of these things where it's just a side thing, right? We eat our coal, so it doesn't make any difference. So I'm culling pretty hard. And then on the goat end of things, I'm doing a similar thing, right? So I have kinders, which are the only dual purpose goat, and that's what I want. I want a homestead goat that's dual purpose. The thing I do not like about the kinders is they are newbie and noisy. They are constantly complaining. They yell. Kanan doesn't really care for that. They are fairly hardy, but as much as they're a good milker, they almost milk too much. So I'm kind of crossing some different stuff in. I've got that they're a little bit big. At least our biggest kinder is a little bit big. We have some Nigerian boar goat mixes that I absolutely adore, but they don't have as big of a bag and as big of teats, orifices as I want. They put out good meat. They've got beautiful bone to meat ratio. They've got a good size. They don't say hardly anything, which is nice. One in particular drops twins every single year, no problems. So I'm kind of tinkering with my own deal there too. Will I ever get my own breed done, man? I don't know. It's been an ongoing project for a few years. I save one or two here and there, and I grow them out. And I don't like them. Like right now, I've got a buck from last year that, I liked him right out of the womb. Right, I liked his girth, his size. He's from a nice doe, but he has proven to be one of the noisiest bucks on the farm.
Gendry.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, and so, his horns. His horns are they're horrible.
They are.
They should come out and kind of curl around. They're like these massive spikes growing out of his head.
Yeah, they look very I'm not sure where he's getting that at either.
I don't know.
They remind me of like some of the alpine horns that go straight back is what they're doing. But the base on them is absolute, for a little goat, they're huge.
Yeah.
He's probably going to get eaten at this point because nobody's buying goats right now. So since I'm probably going to eat him, I may even winter him if I can afford the hay for it, just because I want to see. He's kind of hit that stride, and I want to see how he develops the rest of the way. Yeah. But he loses out on the noise factor. He can't stay because of that. So Ruby says, I have a Holland Lop and a Rex. I love how soft the fur is on the Rex. I do too. And a lot of people ask me about Rex. Rex are cool rabbits. We had some for a while. I've had many Rex too. The thing I don't like about the Rex is, one, I didn't feel like they did as well in the cold. They have good density, but the fur is short. So I didn't feel like they took the cold as well. But the gene that causes that short, curly, fuzzy hair makes their nails grow faster. And I couldn't deal with the upkeep. Just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
They're more prone to sore hocks because it doesn't take much for their nails to get really long and get their foot out of alignment. Ruby also asked, do I pedigree my rabbits? Yeah. Yeah, we do pedigree rabbits. We actually do pedigree, and a good portion of our breeding herd, we actually take the time to go ahead and register. So we take it pretty serious. Like I said, we breed to the standard of perfection. Nothing here. We don't have anything that's not pedigreed at this point. I very seldom sell stuff without a pedigree because if it's worth selling, it's a good quality animal. We had a bunch of people last year wanting weird mixes of stuff just to breed meat rabbits because that was kind of where the market was last year. And so I did sell quite a bit of stuff without pedigrees last year. But it was weird. It was stuff like they bought a satin buck from me, an American doe, and a Harlequin doe because they wanted a range of colors for pelts. So I wouldn't sell pedigrees with them anyway because they couldn't make a purebred, and a pedigree is worthless on a crossbreed. So there was some stuff we sold last year without pedigrees, just weird stuff. But Mary Poppins, haha, on the independent cats. What are your thoughts on the lion head breed? They seem to be the most popular pet near me. Lion heads are one of those things I wouldn't walk away from. I would run. I would run as fast as my little legs would carry me. As far as a dwarf breed, because they are a dwarf breed, they don't have quite as many of the breeding problems that you see in things like Holland Lofts and Netherlands, because they don't have the giant head. But very few people are actually breeding them to within standard, so you're getting lion heads that are too big. The window on those things are pretty small. I want to say they can only be up to like 2.5, 3 pounds. They're really small rabbits. The other thing that I see is a lot of people that aren't breeding them correctly, so you're getting what they call single manes, which means that they're not really maned. They'll have like a poof out of the top of their head. They're not right. And I've seen a lot of people crossing lion heads to other rabbits and then still calling them lion heads. I don't agree with anything pet. I don't breed pets. I don't advise breeding pets. If you want one as a pet, that's cool. If you want to breed them and take it seriously and cull as hard as you should cull, that's cool too. I think they're kind of cool little rabbits. We had one in my 4-H club here a couple of years ago, and I do. I think they're cool little rabbits. I think they're neat looking because they grow in that particular little lion pattern naturally. So I think they're kind of rad. I just think that, like all things, the little rabbits tend to get screwed up by people that want to make a dollar and aren't worried about the long-term health and quality of the rabbits. So I don't breed them. I don't recommend breeding them unless you're going to take it pretty seriously. So, okay. So we'll talk about Kanan's favorite thing. Prices. So
I didn't do any research though on this.
That's really okay. This was your idea, and I mentioned it earlier.
You gave me like 30-minute notice.
You mentioned this a week ago. If you didn't do any research, that's your problem.
Well, I didn't. So
this is where we get to the depressing part of the show. Prices are going up. So last week, a girlfriend of mine posted up that she was in a grocery store and beef was $4.99 a pound. And she was like, when did this happen? And I thought, oh, come on, for ground beef? That's ridiculous. What I found is that is now normal. And they are still calling for price increases. We read the other day that there are wheat shortages now. The price of your flour should be going up this fall. The price of bread is expected to take quite a climb this fall. There was a farm in Montana that harvested a section of their wheat field, and they're used to getting like hundreds of bushels to the acre, and they got like 4.
Yeah.
They had 4,000 acres of wheat, and they are choosing not to even harvest it. They can't make enough money to even make the diesel back. So there is some more wheat coming out of the supply chain. And that seems to be across the board. So everybody's kind of seeing the same thing. This means that anybody who is feeding scratch to your chickens that contains wheat, look for manufacturers to either be jacking up the prices or changing the mix. The bad thing is corn is usually a part of that scratch mix, and we already know that corn is in short supply. So that's all screwed up as well.
It is.
Kanan went and bought tires for one of the trucks. Those are up.
Yeah, I bought the exact same brand of tires 3 years apart. So I bought some BF Goodrich Advantage radials for my Suburban. They were about $550 3 years ago. They were $800 in.
No, they were 600 and something.
Oh, 600 something.
Yeah, because after the alignment, you only paid 7 something.
Well, I got an alignment too last year, so anyway, they went up like $150 over 3 years.
Yeah,
that's not bad, but it's not exactly good either.
No. Usually, when I buy 2 pallets of rabbit feed, I pay about $1,100. When I go to pick it up on Friday, they told me it was going to be 13 something.
Yeah. So a pallet of rabbit feed and a pallet of chicken feed or poultry feed is about $100 more per pallet. That's 40 bags on each. So you're looking,
on average, a couple bucks a bag.
Couple bucks a bag, and that's with a volume discount.
Yeah,
that's like $2 a bag off from where it should be. So really, that's retail price should be about $4 more than we would have paid like a year ago, right?
Yeah. Lumber prices are coming down.
Kinda.
Slowly.
Yeah.
The lumber yards are seeing it more than anything, but the lumber is coming down, and it's weird, man. Right now, pressure treated lumber is actually cheaper than non-pressure treated in a number of cases, so that's kind of interesting. I would recommend, and I don't watch a lot of channels, and I don't recommend a lot of channels, but I would recommend for anything financial, keep an eye on the Economic Ninja. He does talk about some stuff that doesn't apply to everybody, right? He does cryptocurrency, trades in precious metals. I don't really get into any of that, but he has been keeping a really good eye on stuff. And, he was one of the first people calling, hey, we're getting ready for another housing bubble. Now you've got mainstream media starting to go, hey, there might be a housing bubble coming.
Yeah.
He's also been talking about the fact that banks are pulling in their credit, and
well, we've also seen that they're starting to push loans to 40 and 50 years. They're also starting to bump up the initial down payment from what it was. 20 was kind of crazy because it's like, man, 20% on a house. And you think about it. Most starter homes are $350,000 to $400,000 now, so 20% of that is a sizable chunk of money.
Yes.
Banks are now pushing that to 30 to 50% down payment. So again, 20% of $400,000. I mean, that's $80,000 in the bank. Who has that kind of money? And then you push it to 30 to 50. Who has almost $250,000 in the bank for a house? Not many.
Yeah, not many. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. Just keep an eye on it. I did read an article today that said, and this is kind of funny. So I'll back up a little bit. 2 days ago, I read an article that said that the price of gasoline, they think, has hit the high point for 2021. And then today, I read an article that says the price of gas is continuing to rise, and they think it'll peak in October. So I'm not sure whose journalistic, investigative reporting is correct there. All I will say is, keep an eye on your gas tank too.
Well, and I've seen that used car prices are starting to come down. Finally, there was an insane amount of price increases where you saw it in the news that they were saying used prices were sometimes higher than the retail value of the current vehicles sitting on lots. So you had that. You had tons of manufacturers obviously having problems. So you'll start to see as they get chips in and some of these other pieces in, like Denso is a major manufacturer that brought stuff in, and they lost a complete ship, not a container, but a complete container ship was sunk out at sea, and they lost I don't know how much in millions of dollars of parts that went to all the manufacturers. That was a month or two ago,
Yeah, a couple
ago.
months ago now.
Yeah, so things are starting to come down on that front. That's where I watch. But yeah, gas is still going up. It'll probably still go up a little bit more. OPEC's trying to fight back. They're trying to put more gas in, but since our current government administration is trying to push towards the renewables, sustainables, electric, and the other pieces, I think there's as much as you can try to flood the market, they can equally just try to tax it to keep it high. So we'll see where that goes.
They are talking once again about shutdowns this fall because of COVID.
Yeah.
There are a lot of doctors now saying that they expect the Delta curve to be kind of a spike and done. But there's also rumors and whisperings, especially here where we are in Oregon, where our governor kind of made a half comment kind of thing where it was like, oh, well, we may have to close venues, which made all of us rabbit people go, here we go again.
Yeah.
We're not exactly a critical service. I mean, we think we are.
Yeah.
But we're not exactly a critical service.
Well, but our mask mandate that just went into effect last Friday is in effect until I think almost the end of February next year. And I don't think a lot of people, I've never seen it listed in media, in our local or national media, that Oregon's deal is going to be 6 months is where it's currently slated to go. I only know that because someone else actually looked up the current wording in everything, and where it's signed into the declaration, it actually lists a date of expiration, which I think is February 22nd, 22. So we got at least 6 months of mass fights coming.
Yep.
I heard when I was coming back from town yesterday, Lars Larson, who's a radio personality out of Portland, right? He's out of Portland?
He is out of Portland. Go ahead and do your thing, and then I'll give my little Lars Larson story.
Anyway, so Lars Larson was talking about, I literally was just like tired of all the music, and I just hit search, and it found the station he was on. So he was talking on IP13, kind of the madness involved with that. And we covered that maybe a month or a month and a half ago in our live stream about animal cruelty protections that are really overstepping their bounds in Oregon. Then he went on to some unemployment numbers that in Oregon we have 98,000 available jobs, and we have just over 100,000 people on unemployment. And there are a lot of people debating, saying, it sounds like everybody that's unemployed needs to go get a job, and we don't have any unemployment. And it was kind of a debate on, should people on unemployment just go take a job, whether they're, a PhD in civil engineering and they can't really find a job? Should they go take a fast food job or a retail job or anything else that they're well educated beyond? They're well beyond the criteria. Should they go take it just to have a job or not? And
that's referred to as underemployed.
Underemployed. So I was in that situation last year, so I've got a little bit of.
Kanan was really hoping to be a Walmart door greeter.
I really was, but they just wouldn't do it. I wasn't friendly enough.
So I will share my little Lars Larson story. So I went way, way back. We'll talk about the 80s.
When? Last century.
the 1980s. I went to Rivermill Elementary for grade school, and my school principal was Mr. Baker. Don't ask me what his first name is. I couldn't even tell you.
It was Mr.
Yeah, probably Mr. In second grade, a very young journalist, who I don't remember if he was a news anchor at the time or if he was just a journalist that worked at one of the TV stations out of Portland, came and did a talk at our school, and I can't remember for the life of me what he talked about, but it was Lars Larson. I got to meet him when I was in second grade, and I have always held on to this. And then when he left TV and he went into radio, and when he got his radio show syndicated nationally, this has been years ago. I did send an email to his show one time. We were living, I think, in Mississippi still, and just said, "Hey, I got to meet you when I was in second grade," and he did give me a shout out on the radio. So I hold on to my little celebrity type moments, I guess. But yeah. Ruby Fox asked, "Do we have ducks on our homestead?" Nope, we got rid of them. We had Swedish. We have had Pekin ducks. We got rid of them. Being in the high desert like we are, water is really tough to keep for ducks. If I was going to get back into ducks, and I have kicked it around, I would go to Muscovy, because they're not really a duck. They're actually a dryland goose, which is kind of interesting. So if I was going to do ducks again, I would actually go to Muscovy, but I won't do true ducks anymore. We just couldn't keep their pools clean enough. Domestic ducks have to be able to submerge their whole head in water. They're very messy. Where you have a lot of water in the desert and manure, you end up with flies, and they just were very, very difficult to manage.
And they're extremely noisy. We always had problems with bobcats showing up because you could hear them for a mile away on the nights when they'd be out there, especially when you did their fresh pools. You cleaned their pools out and gave them fresh water. They would get in there and run around and splash and play, and you could hear that for a while.
Females are so noisy. You'd hear whack, 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 whack.
Yep.
You could hear them all the way out to the road. They were really noisy.
Yeah.
I loved them. They're fun. They're fun to watch. There's a lot of good meat ducks if you want that. They're good layers. We liked our Swedish quite a bit. I just decided it wasn't fair to them. It was just too hard to keep up with their water. And so we rehomed the last of ours early this spring. They were getting old too.
Yeah.
So we just kind of let them go, kind of thing. Day Valoran, I hope I don't say that wrong. What age is best to process silver fox rabbits for pelt and meat? Is it possible to get nice quality in both? Also, what kind of unique, useful things can be made with pelts? Okay, so the meat and pelt thing is an interesting question, because to get a nice pelt, a really nice pelt, you have to wait for them to prime. Rabbits prime their coat out at about 9 months, give or take. In the very smaller breeds like our Triantas and Lilacs, Silver Fox, that kind of stuff, or not Silver Fox, but like Harlequins and some of the smaller breeds, 6 months. But the bigger stuff, Silver Fox, Americans, New Zealands, Californians, Satins, are all going to prime out at 9 months. It's a really long time to keep them if you're going to make meat out of them as well. What we tell people as far as meat is you want to do them around the 5-pound mark. They have the best feed conversion to about 10, 11 weeks. After that, every bit of meat you make costs you more money. So obviously, if you're going to process them out at 8, 10 weeks, you're probably not going to get a great pelt. So you kind of have to, there's kind of an in-between, and a lot of people kind of go with, what is your use for it? If you're using them for garments, like if you're going to use them for vests, if you're going to use them for blankets, stuff that takes a lot of beating, you really have to wait for that prime. You have to wait until the skin is as thick as it's going to get, the fur holds on better, so you really have to wait for that 9-month-old prime. I know that makes for a big rabbit, because really you should be looking at anywhere from like 9 to 12 pounds at that point, which if you don't want to roast a whole size rabbit like that, you can part them out and grind them up and do ground meat, which is what we do with our Americans when they get too big. If you're using them for crafts, or things like, I've seen people make little teddy bears and stuff out of them, but if you're using them for craft type purposes, maybe a spot on a purse or whatever you're doing, you can, I've heard, because I don't raise the fox, but because their pelts are a little thicker, I've heard you can achieve a good craft quality pelt at 12 to 14 weeks. So that's not horrible for your feed conversion rate. Um, but yeah, if it's gonna take a beating at all, you really have to wait all the way to 9 months. But what kind of useful, unique things I have seen? You go to an ARBA convention, you'll see people with all kinds of stuff. I've seen hat bands, I've seen vests. Uh, like I said, teddy bears. People love to make teddy bears with the
Rex.
Rex fur. That's a big thing. Um, Blankets. Uh, I've seen people do saddlebag covers, like the edge of saddlebags. One year at convention, I saw a lady that had a really nice. I want to say it was like a crocheted duster, and she had rabbit fur on the collar and around the sleeves, and then like a trim along the bottom. I've seen them do all kinds of stuff. I mean, you could probably just Google, fur, whatever, and probably find a whole lot of really cool stuff. But yeah, that's just the stuff I've seen. D Bale said he raises golden cascade ducks. We had, I guess the other thing we had is we had some buff Warpington ducks for a while, but loved them, just not for us.
Yeah, not here. It was too hard.
Yeah, we had them in Mississippi and they weren't that bad.
Right.
They helped keep the mosquitoes down. They were lovely. But here it's just too difficult. And it's hard to keep them in water all winter when everything freezes.
Yeah.
And, we have the African geese. And because they're Africans, the geese don't have a high water requirement like some other geese do. So we make that work. But boy, those ducks were really tough.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't feel like they had quality of life. We tried, did a bunch of different stuff, but it was just really hard.
Yeah, in the summer months it was fine, as long as I had the time to keep their ponds cleaned, and it's not like it was a lot of work. It was just one extra thing I had to constantly keep up on.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, honestly, they were just not made the priority. I mean, it's unfortunate for them that I just couldn't. I wouldn't and couldn't keep up on them as they really should have had.
Getting back to the whole shortage thing, I don't know if anybody has seen canning jar lids yet, but this has been an interesting thing being talked about in some of my homesteading groups that I'm on Facebook. Back in the late fall and early spring this year, we were being told by the manufacturers, July, everybody will have canning jar lids back in stock by July. July has come, and there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of canning jar lids. So it's been a big conversation piece of where are all the lids. None of the companies that I have seen have come out and said what is going on with the lids. So there's a lot of theories out there, everything from material shortages to staffing shortages to them hitting the stores and disappearing because of hoarding situations. And I will say that we have seen at Walmart, the only thing we have seen come in is the Golden Harvest lids, which I have used off and on for years. But almost every time we go, man, it's empty boxes. I got lucky one night. We went in there and we did get a box. And yes, I bought an entire box of 20, 24?
Yeah.
But we can a lot. But yeah, it's still really short supply. Our local co-op is stocking the wide mouth lids. Prices on them are way up. They're like $6 for a box, where they used to be like $3. Those are, I want to say those are Kerr lids. So I don't know what everybody else is saying, but canning jar lids are continuing to be a big deal. And now the reusable lids that you see from Tatler, the white plastic lids with the rubber bands, they are beginning to have production problems. I saw that today, that they are having trouble keeping up with the demand because people couldn't get the metal lids. They were trying to go to the Tatler lids, and apparently that is also becoming a big deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know what everybody else is saying. I'd be really interested to know, how is everybody else doing with lids? I've been doing some canning. I did some today. I did my first round of tuna. So my dad went fishing with my cousin and an uncle and somebody else and brought home some salmon, some crab, and some tuna. So I've been hard at work with that. Nothing quite like home canned tuna. It's just a whole nother flavor experience. But I have never canned it before.
Right.
So I did some of that. I did have some lid failures, and I'm not real sure. Tuna tends to be pretty fatty, so I don't know if it was just blow through or just the fact that I was using old lids, because I do have some old lids in there. So um, that's kind of the big thing for us, right? I mean, I don't really have much else to talk about. If anybody has any other questions, get them in real quick. But that's kind of been the big to do. I've been trying to keep up with comments and questions on YouTube. I'm still behind by a couple weeks. So if you've been trying to get in touch with me or trying to leave messages or make comments, don't be surprised if all of a sudden I start commenting back from a week and a half. Just been busy as everybody is right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting close to harvest on everything. Starting to pare down our herds of everything. The garden, if the temperatures keep crashing down in the 30s, the garden may be coming to a close sooner than we want.
Yeah, the garden has not done well this year. Just too much smoke. And now it seems like every time the smoke blows out, the weather cools off. So the tomatoes and peppers have not been happy.
Right.
All I can say is nothing's doing great. There isn't
Yeah.
anything in the garden that I'm excited about, but we're trying very hard to keep stuff up.
Yeah.
Matthew says, "Love your channel." Thank you. We do our best, and we really do have a bunch of new stuff coming. I've been working on some ideas from quail videos. I do have quail hatching in the incubator right now. Lots of quail everywhere.
Yeah.
They really are like chips. When they tell you can't have this one, man, I look around and I'm like, I must have 70 quail right now. In all different sizes. From little peepers to full grown layers. I've got all kinds of them.
Yeah. It's not hard to be overrun with them. You know, you put what? We put 16 or 17 chicken eggs in the other night.
Yeah.
And then, that took up half of a row in the incubator. And then on top of that goes like 50 or 60 quail eggs in the same space. And so it's not hard to overproduce them. It's
Well, they have such a freaking high mortality rate, and I knew that going in. Like, they're as bad as turkeys. But it's just they butcher really easy. So I just keep hatching more of them because I'm like, why not? It takes me just a couple of minutes to do them. So
yeah, we did that. My parents were here a little over a week ago. They came for a weekend, and we had quail one night. So Nikki went out Friday morning. No, it's Thursday morning before they got here.
Yeah.
Went out Thursday morning, and we had some quail already, I think, frozen. Was that right?
Yeah.
3 frozen, and then she butchered 5 or 4.
Yeah, I butchered 4.
Yeah, so she just did that, tossed them in a bag. We left them in the fridge for the weekend. And Sunday night, we had crockpot quail, and my parents had never eaten quail, and they ate it, and you could tell they were kind of like weirded out. Like, I'm not sure what.
Oh, they totally dug the little mini wishbones.
The little mini wishbones that are the size of a quarter. They really like that, but yeah, I mean they're finger food. They're really, you basically just pick off a leg and kind of gnaw on it, and then you grab a wing, and
they are awesome though.
Yeah, they are pound for pound, pretty darn awesome compared to everything else.
Yeah, we like them. I'm going to start doing some quail video now that I've had them for a while. And now that I have a rainbow of colors, I really do have some pretty quail. I wasn't meaning to keep them for prettiness by any stretch. But
right.
That's kind of what we've done. So
it's easy to tell them apart that way too.
Yeah, it really is. I like to have a difference because otherwise a whole pin of jumbos is just a whole pin of jumbos, right? And you're like, yeah, they're all brown.
Yeah.
You can clearly tell the males apart in the jumbos, which is nice. But yeah, they're fun. I like the quail. I'm starting to see an awful lot of people though that are trying to grow them in the suburbs that are getting busted for city ordinances.
Yeah.
There are places where they require game bird permits for these things, which doesn't make any sense because they're not a wild game bird. Coturnix japonica is what they are, and they're completely domesticated. There is no wild Coturnix quail.
Right.
Not the Japanese Coturnix. There are wild Coturnix. But yeah, so if you're thinking about getting into them, check your locality first because people are getting busted and having to give up their quail like crazy. I see one almost every day in my quail groups that I'm in, so pretty interesting stuff. But I don't know about you, that's all I've got. I've got to
Yep.
get dinner going and get out and get cracking on some chores.
Yep, me too. And it's starting to cool down. I mean, it's been kind of what it's been. It was kind of chilly today. I think it was only 75, and it had a little bit of breeze. So right before we did the live stream, Nikki watered the garden while I was changing some tires from one car to another. And I tell you, it was nice in the sun, but the minute you get out of that sun, if you went into the shade with that breeze, it felt like high 60s, and it was like 5 o'clock. So it was a change. And I know I did chores in a coat this morning, and I think last night you put a sweatshirt on.
Yeah,
I did not. But yeah, it's definitely getting to be coat weather. At least a sweatshirt or long sleeve shirt.
Ruby asked, "What's the best time of season to breed rabbits?" Depends wildly on where you are.
Yeah.
We breed fall through early summer here. In Mississippi, we pretty much did fall, winter, really early spring. There are places that you can breed year round. It really does depend on your weather.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and if you have, even if you're really hot, if you can keep them
under 85.
Under 85 degrees with misters, fans, or air conditioning, you might be able to do it all year round.
Yeah,
if
it really
you can keep the accommodations.
There's
going.
a lot of variables. If you haven't gone through and watched our rabbit series, I know there's a lot of videos, but go through and watch them because we do talk a lot about what's okay for weather. Meat Rabbit Math, I talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
D. Bale said, "I really enjoyed the quail we had for dinner. Tasty. I want to add them to my farm and raise for meat." I like them. I really do.
Yeah, I would say if
they're different.
Well, and Nikki and I have talked about it. You know, chickens are great. Everybody understands chickens, especially through our hip camp. People just understand what a chicken is and a chicken egg. But really, you know, it needs one or two people. We have a plucker, and it's just so much more setup with quail. You just grab one, you take care of it, and you know it's a one-person deal, and it's very quick.
And the space requirements. I mean, like
Yeah.
I have my breeding coveys. So 3 or 4 hens and a male in a 2x2 pen. I mean, like,
yeah.
So the space, like, if you're doing the prepper thing and are at all worried about operational security, oh my God, they're so much more quiet.
Yes.
You just have to select for males that aren't real screamers.
Right.
Aislinn said, "Thanks for the rabbit answers. Take care." I hope that helped, and I hope you didn't feel called out on it at all. I hope that really kind of answered the question. You're not the only person who's asking these kind of questions, and that's why I thought it was good to talk about it here.
We are self-admittedly a little more hardcore than everybody else because we want to teach everybody the best of how to do everything and for why. So we're always wordy and lengthy explaining it, but we always want everybody to take away the maximum amount of information that is correct, and we want you to be successful beyond what you think you're capable of.
Yeah.
So.
All right, well, that's it for us, I think. I've got all the comments, questions, and all that good stuff. I'm going to go start dinner and some homegrown chicken fajitas.
Excellent. So that's it. We're on Instagram, obviously on Facebook, and we're on...
You can always hit me on email if you need srhomestead@yahoo.com.
Yep.
Just know it takes me a few days.
But we'll answer all back and...
And now that this is the second week in a row that it's gone, we're going to keep trying to do Wednesdays again.
Yep, Wednesday live streams seem to be working. Yep,
we'll hopefully get back to it. You can always send questions to me. Some of them will make these live streams. Some of them I'll just answer privately. But all right, guys, happy homesteading. We will see you next week. Got it?